Everyone, welcome to Social Media Hangout Time. I'm Janet Johnson, and I'm here today with Lisa Saline.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here today.
Hopefully you've caught some of our shows before, and if you haven't, we'd love it if you would leave a review if you're an iTunes user on iTunes so that we could get some more reviews. It always helps, and we'd want to hear your feedback too. And if you're in a live hangout with us, definitely leave comments. I will be checking them periodically. Leave comments and questions so that we can answer you live. Today, we're going to be talking about LinkedIn Publisher and tagging. We're going to just kind of go into some conversation about how to use it and just the whole LinkedIn platform. It's not something that I am the biggest expert in, so we're going to be kind of focusing in on Lisa, who has worked with it even more. I mean, we all use all the social media platforms, but this is one of those that I just wouldn't put myself at the top of the list for LinkedIn. So, Lisa, let's get started. So,
Yep. I mean, LinkedIn is it's a wonderful tool for the business-to-business community. And one of the things that I see happening is people are overlooking the power of the LinkedIn Publisher. A while ago, when they first released Publisher, it was only to a select group of people, and now it's open. So you can find that Publisher tool right in the status update. So when you go into your home page, you're going to see all of these articles that are streaming. The people that you are connected with are publishing articles. And it really does help put some authority around you. If you want to be an authority in the marketplace, you should start publishing your articles, very similar to a blog post. Status updates on a regular basis help you get in front of your audience. And on just a standard status update, which would be posting a quick comment and then a link to an article that you found that might be helpful for your audience, that's a great tool. But go one step further and click on the little pencil icon in the top right by your status, and then you can create a blog post and start with a captivating image. You can do everything that you could do on your regular blog in Publisher, but remember that the title is what gets people to open. So, Janet, I know we've talked about, when the best time to post is, and, they are saying you could put video in there, and I've put that in there myself, but they're saying that just your simple text is actually more readable, and people will scroll through that. So I
what's the
recommend
difference?
kind of split testing.
Let's go back a little bit, though. Why would you do the publisher? Tell some differences between a publisher and a status update.
Well, a status update is just something very quick and short and a link to an article outside of LinkedIn. And sometimes people have to click on it and they leave the site. With Publisher, it actually is a conglomerate of, it's a full-blown blog article. And so there's some good SEO factors in there. It allows you to tag other people within LinkedIn. It allows you to put call to actions in there. So it's just, 300 words, 300 to 500 words you can write about your industry. So you're scrolling through, you see the full article instead of having to click and go outside of LinkedIn and then coming back in. So Publisher, you can put graphics in there. It's more robust, and it allows you to have a voice in the business-to-business community.
And the other thing I think that I would say about the publisher also is just that it alerts your connections. So you're actually going to be alerted about that post, and so it shines. I mean, it's just if you're not even, I actually use LinkedIn, well, probably not the right way, but I don't look at the newsfeed part of it much, hardly at all. And but I always check my alerts because I just want to make sure, that I connect with the people I need to connect with,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Do I have a message? And all these alerts that are happening, I notice, but I wouldn't notice a status update in the news feed necessarily. And I don't know what they call
That's
it
a
on
good point.
LinkedIn, but so that's one thing that I think will make that publishing raise up, is just that you're alerting people, hey, I'm creating good content. So if you do it on a
Right.
consistent basis, I've noticed some of my connections that some people really do it on a very consistent basis. And seems like kind of some of the same people too, so it's kind of funny. But it's great, and I also know that the other piece of it that can make a difference is the traffic that goes to that. You can do, I was listening to another interview about this, and they were talking about how the stats were just through the roof on their LinkedIn posts that they published, but they were very status quo on their own blog. So
Right.
let's spinning that into that. What would you say? Do you think it's okay to do your blog posts like the exact same thing over on LinkedIn Publishing? Do you want fresh content? What's your suggestion there?
Well, I think in this day and age, your blog is really your hub. It's your main positioning. I don't think there's any reason why you can't take that same blog post and publish it on LinkedIn. But you might as well optimize and utilize repurposing your content. You might have some blog posts that you wrote a year ago that are still relevant. So
Mm-hmm.
take those blog posts and put it in your LinkedIn publisher, because then you're repurposing your content. It's still new to the new audience on LinkedIn. Because the reality is there's so much content out there now that, if you're posting on your blog on Monday and then you do the same thing on Tuesday on LinkedIn, you're going to see duplicate content. People are probably going to wonder, what the heck? But if you're taking something that's older and repurposing it, just flipping it around, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
So as
Yeah.
long as it's related to your industry and it adds value, your audience is in multiple places. So, for sure using the content that you already have.
That's my thought too, but I have heard against that. So I've
Yep,
heard both
I've
ways.
heard both ways, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's just, your own perception,
Mm-hmm.
um, and there, everybody has a different audience, and I guess you have to know who your audience is and where they are. Because
Well, and you want to kind of
sometimes,
keep it semi-relative to
right?
LinkedIn too,
Oh,
like because you are
absolutely.
doing this on LinkedIn. I mean, it could be about content, visual marketing, it could be about anything, but you just don't want it to be irrelevant either. So, I've always wondered, should I, I do a lot of Google Plus posting, about all about Google Plus. Well, is that proper to be doing that on LinkedIn? You know what? There's no answer to that, to be honest. I don't think. Why wouldn't it be? People that are on LinkedIn are probably using Google Plus too. Some are, some aren't. So I don't know. That I toy with that idea. If do we have to write all about LinkedIn to be on there? I don't think that's right either.
Well, the thing is, Janet, you're a social media expert, so you're going to talk about social media, and everybody has a niche. You might have an Instagram person that's got that niche. They can share that information on LinkedIn because they're teaching it.
Mm-hmm.
But take a look at like an insurance agent or Kimmy, the salon owner. That is, if Kimmy wanted to do consulting and teach people how, to color their hair, or what's new in the industry trend on cutting hair, you might capture a great audience on LinkedIn from other salon owners.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's relative to your industry that you're in, not specifically to the platform. And I think sometimes we get wound up because we're in social media, but the reality is how can we help these other businesses by educating them on what platforms are out there and where their audience might be.
And it kind of reminds me of when Facebook and Google Plus had started, and they had that big battle. And Google Plus, when you were on there, it was if you mentioned Facebook, it was like you were
Uh-huh.
scared to do it. It's like, oh, should I mention Facebook marketing? Because this Google Plus crowd doesn't really like the Facebook marketing. So it's kind of but I think that's been overcome. I think people do cross-platform everything, and depends on what you're the expert in. You're exactly right. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I just look at it, there's so much B2B business out there. There's, you have business consultants, you've got social media trainers, you have people that are experts in finance or franchising or health and wellness. So it's about capitalizing and helping position yourself as an authority in your marketplace. What do you want to be seen as? So the publisher option allows you to put graphics on there, video, connect out maybe to your email landing page, where you're capturing an email
Mm-hmm.
address.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do
And
that a lot when I do mine. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I
Absolutely.
think, you're not selling anything, but if you can give something away for value, I just think it's a overlooked tool, and
Yep.
when you say the alerts, it's on the right hand side of your LinkedIn account. It'll drop down, and headlines are key because I will get alerts, and if the headline doesn't interest me, I don't even open it.
Yeah.
So headlines is something you definitely want to
Well, it's
start
just
with.
like a blog. I mean, blogs, you have to word the headline, the title correctly.
Well,
What
you're
about SEO? Do you know if it gets affected by SEO too? Like the
Honestly,
title?
I haven't seen a whole lot of results for the SEO when they do a
Mm-hmm.
Google search pulling in the articles, so I don't think it is at this point,
Yeah.
but I could be wrong. I just haven't experienced or seen any of that right now
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Google.
something fine. Yeah, because the one thing to think about, and you know what, in my mind, it never hurts to
Right,
think about those keywords still. It just, even if LinkedIn doesn't have that specific format, because the one thing, like LinkedIn profiles and pages are
right,
very, very prominent on Google. And so if
absolutely.
even if it's not there yet, it could come down the road, and if you've optimized it with those keywords, it could make a difference. So it doesn't
Well,
hurt to think about
yep,
that.
and regardless, you want to be aware of what are people searching for. So if your headline includes words that people are searching for, even if it doesn't show up in Google, they're going to capture your attention. So you're going to want to
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to that because that's what people are looking for. So you might as well incorporate SEO for sure in that.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
I like the link. I like the ability to hyperlink to articles outside of your publisher, but also to people within LinkedIn. So you could link and hyperlink from your article to your group page, to your business page, or to a group. So, I think that's really key when you're going through an article. If you want to invite them to participate in a related group within LinkedIn, you can link there and grow your audience that way too.
So expanding on that, what about the option of taking a blog post that you have, but instead of, let's say we have 5 steps to blank, blank, blank. We don't need to get into
Right.
specifics. And you do 1, 2, and then like I do this a lot on my email newsletter. Then to read the rest, 3, 4, and 5, had to, click on this link, and then it takes them to the full blog post. What about something like that? What's your thoughts?
Well, what does your audience want? I mean, do you want them to click outside of LinkedIn? Do you think that as they're reading through the blog post that they're going to stop and move on to something else if you're not giving them all the information? I really believe it's the quality of your information. If
Yeah.
it's something that's going to capture them, I personally wouldn't recommend that you give them one, two, three, and then have them go somewhere else, just because that's a marketing tactic to
Yeah.
try and capture something, and people are catching on to that. Maybe in an email format, you could do that because people don't like to read, long content on an email. But in LinkedIn, I think it's give them the meat and let them decide what they want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I would I wouldn't break it up. I would just do the full
Yeah.
article.
Yeah. And that's what I've seen done. I'd be curious to see, because it is always best to get them to your own website, but at least you can. This gives them showing your authority, showing that you're educating
Yeah.
them, and it puts you in front of them and alerts them. So it's kind of like, they say advertising needs to be 7 times or that somebody's supposed to see. So that's why some people I think are using it so much, because it's alerting the connections. Because otherwise you kind of forget about, especially when you have the amount of connections we have, you forget about who your connections even are. And so I think that's something that can make a big difference in your marketing too. Now, one thing I want to ask you too is, how often do you think you should be doing one of those publishing?
Honestly, if you can do one a day, I really would encourage that. A couple times a week at a minimum to do a blog post or a publisher post. But I see people doing sometimes 2 a day. I'm on LinkedIn in the morning and again in the afternoon. So, you know, there's no harm in doing it a couple times, at least twice a week. I would encourage.
I'd say a couple times a week. If somebody's in mine twice a day alerting me, I might disconnect them if I don't want to see
It
their stuff.
depends
That's quite a
on what's the contact, you know. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love Michael Hyatt, for example. I read everything
Sure.
he sends out because he's awesome. So if he
Mhm.
sends it twice a day, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Um, but if you want to get in the habit of maybe do one status update and then you do a blog post or a
Yeah.
publisher post,
Yeah.
so that it alerts that one person. But the biggest thing, and this goes for any platform, is consistency. You have to be consistent. And I
Mhm.
struggle with that too sometimes because there's so many areas that you want to focus on. So if you have a good content calendar, add the LinkedIn publisher as part of your content calendar. Just making sure that that's going to be in your strategy and your plan.
Mhm.
And then I love to use the tool Mind Maps because I will just start mapping out headlines, and you could tweak headlines, and then you could change the headline, and then you write your article based on that headline.
Mhm.
So if you can start a content calendar where you have publishing as part of your strategy, I think that'll work. It works pretty good.
Mhm. Mhm. And my suggestion would be once a week minimally, probably would be
Mm-hmm.
the thought. I don't know that there's any specific number that has to be done, but if you did, like you said, the consistent, aiming at once a
Yeah.
week. And if somebody's not doing it at all, like I have been sporadic. I'll be honest. I've done some, and then I haven't done one in a month. I mean, it's something that isn't top of mind for me because I'm not a major LinkedIn user.
Right.
So I guess for
Oh,
the people that are not doing it currently, my thought is at least start with, once every couple weeks, then try to move it up to once a week, then try to move it up to twice a week, and and so on and so on. It also depends on how much you blog and how much content you put out there too.
yeah, and sometimes it's if I look at some of the people that I'm on an email list for, I know that I'm going to get an email on Tuesday morning, every single Tuesday morning from Jeffrey Gitomer. I know that, so I expect that to be in my inbox. So having that same method and process in LinkedIn. So set
Mhm.
a date, set a time, and just do it every single week. Then people will expect it to show up in their tracker or
Yeah,
their
yeah,
alerts.
their
Yeah.
alerts. Yeah, yeah, cool.
And it helps you too, because then you kind of have that deadline of, oh, I got to get this article done by Tuesday morning.
Oh,
Just like we do
absolutely.
with our podcast.
Yeah,
We're up
exactly.
at midnight the night before we got to publish it. So
Exactly. Yes. If
yeah,
you have something to get to somebody, well, it makes a big difference. And some people wait till
yeah,
the end, and some people pre-plan it. It just needs to be planned, and I completely
right.
agree with that. Now we wanted to talk a little bit about tagging also, so let's get into that. Go ahead and
Yeah,
tell us how that works.
and tagging, I love LinkedIn B2B. There's a little tool that you can actually track the people that you're connected with. You can tag them for the groups. When you connect with someone, say I'm going to connect with you, Janet, I will tag you as social media expert. If I meet somebody at a chamber, I'm going to tag them at the chamber that I met them at. so that I can sort my contacts by the tags. So it's kind of like an
Ah,
internal CRM. And so a lot of times we do, and I've been guilty of this when I first started out, is you're connecting with all these people and then you pull up your contacts and you're like, shoot, I wish I could sort it, but there is an opportunity. So if you tag when you connect, go to the profile and there's a little button on the bottom underneath your face that allows you to tag that person. So you could take it as prospects, you could take it as clients, so that when you pull up your contact list, you have the ability to communicate immediately with
I've
that.
used that mostly with, I've tagged mine as Minneapolis, Minnesota area. And then if
Sure.
I am going to do a local workshop, it's really hard to get a hold of people. You know, you don't want to send it to everybody.
Right.
So then you can bring it into just the Minneapolis market. So that's one of the
Yeah.
big uses I've used those tags, yes.
Well, and two, there's once you tag them, then you can set reminders, like send an article, a related article to this person on a month out. That just helps you remember to stay in front of them, to stay connected.
Hmm.
You could set a reminder of if I just met somebody yesterday at a coffee shop, I could set the reminder in LinkedIn to do a follow-up email, a couple weeks later, checking in. And
Hmm.
that's what is really powerful about LinkedIn is staying in front of and connecting with a person. Whereas if you don't do that on LinkedIn, if you don't have an email follow-up system, they're going to forget who you are. And that
Hmm.
happens because there's so many people that you meet a lot of people, and if it's something that if you're not in front of them frequently, they're going to forget you, and it's nothing
Yes.
against you. They're just not going to remember who you are. So if you could take your offline connections and bring them online and give them good value and touch base, not selling. You don't sell on LinkedIn, but you give value and you connect and you reach out and you say, let's have a phone call. LinkedIn gives you the opportunity to keep those tools up front. And the reminders have been wonderful because I will get a list every day on my email that says, hey, send this person an article or give this person a call. So, and
Yeah,
that's
that's a
more of that.
good idea. Now, what don't they have something for the cards, business cards, an app? What is that app called?
It used to be Card Munch,
Yeah,
and LinkedIn no longer utilizes that.
got it. Okay.
I use the software through Infusionsoft.
Hmm.
That's an app that I can do, but it adds to my email database. And there are
Okay.
some applications, but the one that I was familiar with is no longer available.
Yeah, yeah. Card Munch is what I
So,
used to use too. So, but
yeah,
otherwise, it depends on how many cards you have. You can manually just,
right,
connect with people
right.
too. Cool. Yeah. So tagging, and
Awesome.
then another use of tagging. Just while you were talking, I thought of that too. Would just even be like your target market and
Right,
connecting to that target market and having a specific group. Let's say, I work a lot with the orthodontist, dental
sure.
dentists. So if I tagged those and then I, like you said, did those reminders to teach and make sure that I'm getting things out in front of them, that would make a big difference. So that's cool. Okay.
Right.
Cool.
Well,
Cool
and
idea.
another thing too is there's a lot of people that do webinars,
Mhm.
educational webinars. We just interviewed Josh Turner,
Mhm.
and he does Webinarly, and they use tagging to find people that would be potential prospects for their webinar. So when they have a webinar that's ready to come up, then all of a sudden they have a group of people that would be interested, and they can reach out to them and invite them to the webinar.
Cool. See, yeah, and
So
then on the back end, of course, what are they doing on that webinar? The back end is they're teaching on the
education,
front end, but on the back end, they have a product that they're going to be selling. And so
correct?
that it's leading to the sale. It's part of the sales funnel. Cool.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a real powerful. And
Mhm.
then, just the other thing too is a reminder to use the group page, the company pages. So, you have
Mm.
an insurance agency, publisher is under your personal profile, but then you have your company page, so that's your company profile. So if you're writing articles for the company, it's very similar to the publisher. So post them on your company page as well. People
Okay.
can follow a company. They don't have to follow the person. So
Sure.
you might, like I would follow Coca-Cola. I don't have to follow a person that's in Coca-Cola, but they might have information that would be good for me. So you could follow them, and then when they publish on the company page, I would be notified. So that's
Okay.
another
Wow.
area for content. So you could dominate the B2B space on LinkedIn. A
Okay.
lot of people have done that. A lot of people have gone away from the Facebook and Twitter. Frank Rumicus does the same thing, and he used to run a big SEO company, and now he's dominating on LinkedIn. Very similar things. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
So,
LinkedIn even has SEO power. I mean, it's got power within and outside, so it's got a lot of.
yeah.
It's robust, and it's one of those platforms isn't going anywhere. So it's only getting bigger, better, and it is one of the best for B2B. So cool.
Yeah.
Lots of tips here, and we could I know there's a whole ton of uses for
All
LinkedIn.
kinds of
So
stuff.
yeah. We'll get some more awesome guests on and get teaching more about LinkedIn. So if you're B2B, you got to be there. It's one of those things. I mean, B2C, that's a discussion to be had. It's a little different, but
Right.
I definitely think it's best B2B. Well, thank you, Lisa. That was tons of information.
Oh, you're welcome.
And
Yeah.
this will be show number 33. So you can find out all the notes and anything we discussed will be at socialmediahangoutime.com/33. So thanks a lot.
And I wanted to remind everybody, too, that, if you want to share this show with other people, if you go to socialmediahangoutime.com/love, that will help syndicate this for us as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa.
All right. See you next week.